Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Wine with Jimmy E learning channel here on the world of YouTube. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and welcome to this channel that deals in wine education and all things wine. So if you want to learn a little bit more about wine, and specifically those of you that are studying the world of wine, you've come to the right place. So during this wonderful little presentation, we will be looking at what I call my full examiner's tasting notes for the WSET level 3. So I give you wine which is relatively available in the UK market, and I'll give you a full tasting note. So if you want, you can of course go and select this wine, taste it at home, and then of course correlate them to see how you do against examiners' tasting notes. If you do have any comments, questions or concerns, you can get in touch with us here at Wine with Jimmy by commenting on this video below. So just in the comments section, so pop down your comments. Always lovely to hear how you did as well on the wine tasting, what score you got if you are willing to share, of course. Please make sure you click like and subscribe as well. So our wine on this tasting note is from Washington State in the Pacific Northwest. And this is from the Columbia Valley by an excellent winery called Gramercy Cellars. I interviewed live on air with a wine tasting the co-founder, Greg Harrington, and we did a wonderful lineup, including this. This is the Lower East Syrah. Lower East, as it's found in the lower east part of the Columbia Valley, around Walla Walla. And it is 100% Syrah from the 2017 vintage with a wonderfully manageable 13% alcohol, available from Streatham Wine House. It's a fairly premium Syrah, but it is a beautiful expression, which is done very much in a more traditional way. So it will remind you more of things like Northern Rhone Syrah than it would perhaps say Australian Shiraz. Okay, so that's the details of the wine. Let's go through the tasting sheet. So this starts with, of course, the first part, which is the appearance, of which there are 2 marks available for intensity and color. As an examiner, I have put this down as a medium. It's close to being deep, but I still have some good transparency through it. So I've gone for medium, and it has that typical ruby color. There isn't any maturity from it yet. So medium ruby on this style. That's just your 2 marks. You'll see I've crossed out clarity and I've crossed out other observations. And that is because we are looking at not doing those 2 areas because there's no marks available for those. So clarity is out. You can put it if you wish, and you can put other observations, but there are no allocated marks to those. Then we are talking about the nose intensity and development. Now the nose has 7 marks in total, but I'm splitting it into 2 marks here and then 5 marks for the aromas. So there's 2 marks available here for the intensity and the development. And on this style, we are going for a pronounce. It's got wonderful aromatics. It's not necessarily the most concentrated, but really good aromatics. And then I've gone for developing due to the fact that we find some tertiary components. So it is developing. So pronounced and developing. The other 5 marks are any of the following. So you'll see that I've listed quite a few because the wine does offer plenty on the nose. So first of all, you'll see up here things like geranium, blossom, rose or violet. Has a lovely floral, if not slightly perfumed edge to it. Very much full of red fruits: red currant, cranberry, raspberry, strawberry, red cherry. So a big group of those. You'll notice that's pretty much most of the red fruit. There is something, if you're not sure and you think you should be putting down more characteristics for the wine style, something called flavor or aroma association. So typically when we find something like raspberry, often strawberry may be found there as well. Not always, but it can be the case. As an examiner, we of course will put down things that we find if they are indeed in the wine. A little bit of a Kirschy characteristic in this as well. and then a bit of herbaceous notes. Now, Greg Harrington at Gramercy does pick a little bit earlier than usual, hence why it's only 13%. And this is quite a long growing season here at in Washington State in the lower east part of Columbia Valley. So this is where we find this little touches of things like tomato leaf or blackcurrant leaf, really lovely little elements to it. Lavender as well, something a little bit herbal behind it. White pepper, for me, very much white pepper in this style, and something a little bit stony in there as well. There is oak, but it's a very gentle oak regime. So something like cedar, maybe a little bit of clove or cinnamon. Vanilla, only a hint of here. I put it down for good measure. Charred wood and smoke. And then tertiary components, leather is starting to come through. It's now a 4-year-old Syrah, forest floor earthy. Greg Harrington makes this in very much an earthy example. That's how he often describes the style. So not just a fruit bomb, but has some sort of earthiness behind it. And that's where you started to get a savory element coming through in this wine, maybe a little bit meaty or wet leaves as well. So what they do develop these wines with a bit more age is certainly like an umami character or a soya saucy sort of touch to it. So yes, that's quite complex because of these tertiary compounds, which weren't huge, but they are there. That's why this is developing on the nose. So that concludes your 7 marks. Please remember that it's any 5 across these. Because this is a complex style wine that's over primary, secondary, and tertiary, 1 of the 5 marks is for primary, 1 is for secondary, and 1 is for tertiary. You must hit those 3, and then the remaining 2 marks of this 5 is for anything from this page. So that means you definitely need to find something primary, something secondary, and something tertiary from a wine style like this. Okay, so moving on to the palate, of which there will be 10 marks available. Now, 7 for the characteristics and 3 for the flavors on the next slide. For me, this wine was a dry and high style, so dry sweetness, high acidity, with medium or medium minus tannin, very approachable, but about a medium, I think, is what I would really go for. Now, I've put a range because I can as an examiner. You must be within that range. Alcohol is 13% and feels at a medium. Body would be somewhere around medium as well. Flavor intensity, medium plus or pronounced. Yeah, very good flavor intensity. And the length was really good, not the longest, but at medium plus. Okay, so the 7 marks available there. And this is exactly the same page as the flavors, the aromas for the nose. So you now need to get 3 marks. 1 of those needs to be a primary, 1 of them needs to be a secondary, and 1 of them needs to be this tertiary. So if you have only put down primaries and secondaries, you can only get 2 out of the 3 because you do need to have 1 of the marks as a tertiary. Please, of course, to mark this, pause this and have a look at the all of the boxes I put up. Now, the conclusion here is that this wine is a very good wine because it has lovely balance. It actually has much fresher acidity compared to tannin. Alcohol's fine, great fruit compounds. Nothing is out of sync. I wouldn't say it's the longest of lengths. It's a medium plus, so I've given it a no just for this. But great intensity at medium plus or pronounced for a medium-bodied wine. And complexity, yeah, I think it's just complex. It's certainly, we listed a lot of descriptors. So for this reason, I've put this down as a very good wine, but it definitely has capability of gaining more length with age, more tertiary compounds. So I would say that this has potential, can drink now, but has potential just here. And potentially in about 3 or 4 years' time, this wine will be outstanding. That brings me to the end. So 21 marks available for the red wine. A pass is 12, a merit is 14, and a distinction is 17. Please share what you got on the wine, and it'll be really fun to hear that. But there we are. That is the tasting note. So please join me for another one. If you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, pop them in the comments section below. Make sure you click like and subscribe. And if you do find yourself in London, in the United Kingdom, come and see me. Come and see me at one of my establishments for a class, a glass, or a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Goodbye.